when we're looking at trauma reactions, we need to understand that people are reacting in a normal way to an abnormal situation. Genocide is an abnormal situation, abnormal action taken over generations. It's an abnormal attack on our people, but our reaction to it is normal. However, if we don't become conscious of that traumatic reaction and we don't do anything to understand how trauma is impacting us as individuals, families, and communities, we continue to create more trauma in our communities, in our families, because of our acting out behaviors, whether it's violence or substance use or putting each other down. So we have to become aware of what those trauma reactions are, and we have to come out of denial about that, about the impact of trauma, and that we are going through colonization, and that genocide is ongoing. So we need to create healing processes to come out of denial. All the while we're in denial, we can't change anything. Western worldview looks at us through a pathological lens to say that there's something abnormal about how we are. And it's really important to understand that our reactions are normal reactions to trauma, and that it's not a pathology. And so in looking at dealing with trauma, the best way to go about it is a trauma-informed way. And trauma-informed practice isn't about blame and judgment. It's not about putting people down. It's being able to understand people's story and where they're coming from. So, the simple reframing of understanding trauma-informed practice is, instead of saying, what's wrong with you? That's a judgment-loaded question, like, what's wrong with you? Instead, we need to be looking at it, what happened to you? Tell me your story. So it's a real reframing in what's happened to a person, as opposed to judging and blaming a person, and understanding where they're coming from and what's their story, what's their family history, what's their community history. I think it'll help Indigenous people to reclaim their place in their communities and on their land, reclaiming place, reclaiming belonging, protecting rights, human rights, land rights, spiritual rights. Absolutely. I see it as a helpful tool for communities to take on. I think people need to understand how we internalize oppression. And all groups that have been internalized, when you're being oppressed by something so omnipresent, so big, it's too big to deal with to fight back. So what happens with internalized oppression is that we deal with it collaterally or laterally. So you'll hear the term lateral violence talked about, and that's connected to internalized oppression. And that how we see that is that we've lost the ability to agree to disagree. We've lost the ability to have dialogue, respectful dialogue. I'm right, and I'm right through might, using force or using put down. And that's part of internalized oppression. That's part of lateral violence. And when we're coming to table to discuss the bill, the United Nations Declaration, we're having difficulty because of internalized oppression, because of this acting out behaviors, because of the oppression. Where what happens with internalized oppression is cultural self-hate or self-hate. And so when we don't feel good about ourselves, we hurt others. There's a saying that hurt people will hurt other people. So we can't come to the table and have respectful dialogue because of internalized oppression. So we need to be aware how lateral violence is affecting us to be able to progress in a good way. It's keeping us down. It's keeping us paralyzed, keeping us in a place of paralysis. Well, it's the old tool of genocide to divide and conquer. The people in government need to step back and allow the voices of Indigenous people to take the power, to take first place, to take front line. We don't need others speaking for us. We have excellent, skilled people to be able to give the voice of where we need to go, our own people. And government needs to just step back and allow that voice and really understand that we do know where we need to go, and we do have our destiny. We have a vision for our destiny. And they just need to listen and step back and give space. We don't need them to rescue us or save us. I don't think they're trying to save us. I think they're trying to take us out. They're trying to eliminate us. That elimination, alienation, assimilation, that's still the agenda. That needs to change. That really needs to change and allow us to be who we truly are.